Good evening, and welcome to the September 10th, 2014 work session of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Richard? I have a couple of announcements before we get underway. Tomorrow evening, September 11th, at 7 o'clock, please join the villages of Ossining and Briarcliff Manor and the town of Ossining and the first responders for both villages and Westchester County Police for the town of Ossining for our annual 9/11 memorial service at Engle Park on the waterfront right next to the Ossining Boat and Canoe Club. We will recognize and mourn for those that were lost and have been lost since as a result of the strife that was brought to a head on 9/11. And we will celebrate and recognize the first responders who daily risk their lives for ours and for our property. So please join us. But before that, at the Ossining Boat and Canoe Club, there will be an event that is co-sponsored by the Boat and Canoe Club and the Riverkeeper, 350.org, Transition, and Mare Liberum, which will be entitled Sea Change, We All Live Downstream. And there'll be a number of events. From 4 to 6, there'll be the arrival of a paper boat flotilla, assuming, of course, the weather is permitting and the flotilla makes it this far. They started up in Troy a few days ago, so we'll see. There'll be a picnic on the patio, so bring your food and your drinks and enjoy that. And then at 7 o'clock in Engle Park, as I said, there will be the memorial service. At 7:30, the Riverkeeper will have a talk called How's Our Water? And Paul Sargent's art project on polluted waterways unveiled. At 8:30, there'll be sea shanties, a sing-along, assuming anyone still remembers sea shanties, but
I do.
And Canta Storia. So bring curiosity, bring your sense of fun, bring your need for learning, bring your dinner, and bring your family. That's it. Anyone else?
I'll just offer a quick reminder. We have had a lovely summer for the most part, and we have no idea what is in store for our winter. Now's a great time to find out if there's an opportunity for your home to be more energy efficient. There probably is. Pretty much everybody's home was not built as efficiently as possible, so if you want to learn more about how for little or no money out of pocket your home can become more valuable and more comfortable and more efficient, please visit ossining.energizeny.org and learn more about this program that you hear us talking about every week.
Richard?
Oh, wait a minute.
Bob?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, something.
Sorry.
Yes. I have been, there was a recent ruling from the Ethics Committee on 2 sets of charges. One of them was against me. And I need to make a public apology. So here's me doing it. When those complaints were filed, what came to mind to me was every day in the newspapers and on television, people talk about public officials being investigated for an assortment, a whole assortment of different kinds of activity people don't like. And so, in the interest of transparency, which is something that people talk about here all the time, and in the people's right to know, I announced that charges had been filed against my fellow trustee. And I come to find out subsequently that there's a book that promulgated by the Ossining Ethics Committee in which it says You're not allowed to talk about pending investigation of complaints. Had I known, wouldn't have done it. But not knowing is not an excuse. I didn't do my job. I should have known, I should have read it, and I should not have shared that information. And so I apologize to you, Victoria, because I absolutely violated your rights, and I had no right to do so. And I apologize to the community for not doing my job. I make lots of mistakes, but they're always new and different. I promise this one will not happen again. Thank
We
you.
look forward to the next new and different one.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yes. I made the same mistake that date. I guess we all have first times for something. So we had there was an investigation done. We're found guilty of sharing that information, that additional information in there. So I do apologize to Victoria for sharing that information that was not supposed to be shared to the public at any given time of that information. So I'm really sorry. It won't happen again, and I hope none of that stuff happens ever again. So my apologies to you and to your family.
Okay. Shall we move on? Last year, at the close of Ossining in 3D, our spectacular sculpture exhibit, I said that I wanted to re-up the Public Arts Committee. But only one person, it turns out, took me up on that. Now, maybe not everybody heard me say that, and maybe it didn't get out there in the press. It was at a work session. So now, having discussed this at some length with the Arts Council and with the Westchester Collaborative Theater and with Alan Marcelli and others, we've decided that we should be doing this. Now, the board has to determine that that is the case. And what I would like to do, as you've seen on the agenda, is that it would be called the Public Studio and Performing Arts Commission. And I would like it to be open-sided. That is, it won't be 5 people making decisions. Since there are so many people in the performing arts and in the studio arts here in Ossining, I think it is important that we have representation and that it changes from time to time. If there are things happening at the schools that are crucial for us to have some input on, or perhaps prepare the way for, and then they stop over the summer, then something else may be more important at that particular moment, and other people will be invited to join. Is that?
I like that idea.
Yeah, I guess there should be a couple of people, that stay on it to coordinate.
Yeah.
And then it changes so that it's project-based. This, if you do it as a project-based commission, you get the people who are passionate about the thing that's coming up, working on it, and it also gives people a rest. This work is difficult, all of it. What we do, what the folks that step up on these committees do, and rotating it like this keeps everything fresh, and I think it's going to make a huge difference. So I'm very excited about this commission.
I think not a formal rotation either. There will be people who will be on it permanently. The one person who did step forward was the superintendent of schools, but my suspicion is he meant you, not him. Right?
He didn't mention it to me, but I'm sure at some point it
Yeah.
will trickle down to me.
I would think so. He liked the idea.
Who is that?
Who?
Who are we talking to over there?
It's
Oh,
Bradley
I'm sorry, it's
Morrison.
Bradley Morrison.
Oh, I
who's,
didn't see, you were behind, all I saw was your arms outside.
Yeah.
Hi, Bradley. That's funny.
So, any input?
Well, I'm very interested to learn more about what is the idea of the mission of the commission.
It is to cooperate with all of, not only individual artists, but all of the groups which need to work together because we are looking for a permanent home, or at least a temporary permanent home, for for exhibit space and performance space. It's a very complicated thing to do. Alan and I did spend some time looking last week, and we will continue looking. I have some leads that we can continue looking at. So it would be to coordinate efforts that if the Westchester Collaborative Theater is doing something, then the dance company needs to help in advertising that. And they need to be involved in a larger effort.
Go ahead, Mike.
You also mentioned that there was some sort of a commission or committed before.
Yeah.
How did that work?
There
What
was
that
a
before?
Public Arts Committee, which was founded by Linda Cooper, who was then the manager, Josette Polzella, who was the assessor, and me. And it was a great committee. Mark, you were participating in that, were you not?
No.
But you were here though,
I was here
from
once.
time to time. There were a large number of people. Again, it was very flexible. There were a large number of people, and the goal was to do exactly what happened with Ossining in 3D. But there were some big changes that went on, and that didn't happen. But ultimately, it did happen in the guise of Ossining in 3D. So the goal is to continue doing that. One thing we did was we had several sessions where people brought in concepts for public art and PowerPoints of public art that impressed them that perhaps could be somehow used here. And so are we in
So
agreement
how
to do this?
So are you proposing to get a steering committee together to work up
Yeah.
a formal mission and sort
Yeah.
of loose guidelines and promulgate rules and
Yeah.
procedures, that kind of thing?
Yes,
Is that
that
what?
kind of thing. So what we need to do with that, assuming the board agrees, is everyone who is interested in participating should send an email to Christina Papes, the Assistant Village Manager, at cpapes@villageofossining.org. And that goes for anyone who's watching on television as well.
One question I would have is, as we're accepting applications from folks in the community who may want to be part of the steering committee to establish what this role would be, which it sounds like that's where we are in the
Yeah.
process. Obviously, the Ossining Arts Council and the Westchester Collaborative Theater are a couple of large groups. Would we be also open to anyone who either works in the arts, owns local businesses that are arts and performing arts related? Is that
Yes.
part of the vision
Yes.
that
That
would
is.
participate?
Yes.
Yeah, we have even
Okay.
people who have nothing to do with the arts actually making it, but have an interest in enjoying it. I think that some of us, like, you don't really want to hear me sing or paint or do any of those things.
Yeah, trust me, I know.
Yeah, he
this
has,
is-
and you don't.
yeah.
But I'm an avid theater goer. I go to museums. I go to concerts, and there are many of us who would like to see far more of that stuff happening here. So this is not just for the actual artists. It's also for people who enjoy the performing and visual arts. Don't stay home because you don't think you have the talent. It's not about that. It's about organizing and creating the opportunities for the talented people to have venues and the support they need to do these kinds of events and to coordinate them so everything's not happening at once. One of the things that happens in Ossining, there'll be 12 things on Friday, nothing on Saturday, and a thing on Sunday. And by having all the arts organizations from all the disciplines talking to each other regularly, we'll end up with a far more interesting schedule, and one that allows people to attend more than one thing. Something that's happened that I've loved in the village. Friday nights we have the concerts in the park. Over the summer we had a number of theatrical things happen on Saturdays, and then there's the things at the library on Sunday. Victoria had her movie series on Thursdays, and we're starting to be a place where every night of the week there's something for people to do. And I would like to see this commission be the starting point of making that happen. that,
Wednesday, you realize it's board meeting night, so this
which
is what
is
you do
another
for
form of entertainment. It's sort of
yeah.
performance art,
Yeah.
if you will. But anyway,
Then my only last question would be, someone had asked me if we were considering the commission broadly enough to include the humanities and culture generally, which would be writing and
like poetry and stuff too.
and
I-
it
I
can get
think-
very broad, so I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, who are we inviting to be part of this discussion?
Well, I think that's what the steering committee will have to determine. The broader it gets, the more unwieldy it is, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing it.
All right.
I think the important thing there is that in previous incarnations of some of our committees, they were open only to people who lived in the village. But we have people who are involved in performing in the village or presenting performances in the village who don't live in the village, but they work here regularly. So they are certainly welcome to join. Okay?
Fair enough.
Okay? You all like that?
Yeah, come on, guys, say something. Got a whole room full of people. People should talk.
And visual art,
Yeah.
artists who are not in the village as
Right.
well.
Well, who work here,
Yes,
yes.
And residents of the town of also?
If
Yeah.
they work here, yes.
They work?
If they
If
do,
they-
if they do work here. If you exhibit your work here, we do a plein air art show, for example, a Shadow Monk every summer, where people come at 8 in the morning and they paint and they sculpt and they draw and they take pictures, and then in the afternoon they go and frame it, and then we have an art show, and then we auction it off for the sailing program. The people come from all over.
Or someone lives in the town and is part of the WCT as a director or an actor? or-
Sure,
That's part of the WCT.
absolutely.
So, okay, so it's.
This
Yeah.
is, we're trying to be
Right.
inclusive here. This is not
Right.
about exclusivity, it's about inclusiveness. We're trying to bring more here. And so, if there's somebody who wants to do something in Ossining, I don't care where they come from. You know, if they want to do something here, and it's going to enhance the experience of living in Ossining, then we should be in favor of that. I don't care where they come from. I want something to be happening right here in Ossining for all of us to enjoy.
Well, there's another element of this, which is we will be ultimately, and I don't know the timing of this, but we will be looking at those spaces that are currently parking lots. And we have talked a lot about performance and gallery space being included. We don't know whether that can happen, but it would be nice to know what you all think could happen from your viewpoint that we might be able to include. We could consider that a sort of charrette, if you will, and not just for the groups, but for individual artists as well. So that would be part of this.
Who's here from the Arts Council? Okay, guys, you know the place, the new fish store, the fish place opened up? Please go down there. I just left there. I had my dinner there. And the guy has blank walls, and he is happy to have exhibits. But he needs you to go there and include. Will you do that?
Yeah.
Great. No, not paint the walls.
All right.
Put stuff on.
Yes.
Mom.
Would you mind?
We
I'm sorry.
we
Would
need
you
to
mind
use
using
the
mic?
microphone for
Sorry.
the television camera. It's not for us. Yes, please.
We can hear you, but the TV camera can.
Hello. I wonder if there is a way to make a liaison between the Chamber of Commerce and this newly formed committee. I think it could be a really strong relationship that where both parties could benefit.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's a way that you guys could facilitate that. That would
Yeah.
be really, that would be a really
Manny and I are the liaisons to the Chamber of Commerce.
I think
Yeah.
she means that someone from there.
Yeah,
be
yeah,
the
we'll,
liaison,
we'll,
not
we'll,
the-
we'll go ask them.
Yeah,
Let-
right. I
let's
think it would
see-
be
We'll
really,
let's
We'll go ask them.
Let's see how that works.
okay.
Okay.
We would love that.
Yeah, I think it would be really,
Yeah.
Okay?
No, there were all kinds of hands in the air.
Could you just repeat that email address? Who
Yes,
you would send to for the cameras?
CPAPES @villageofossining.org.
Hi, Bradley.
Hi, so now you can see me, I'm out
Yeah,
from
it's much
behind the
better.
crowd. I would just encourage, when we consider involving the schools, someone like me or one of our teachers, I'm sure, would love to be a part of this, but I would also encourage us to actively involve the youth of the village, and actively encourage, I'm sure we could find a couple high school students who are very interested in the arts, who would like to serve on a committee like this. Every year we have students who are going off to major in the arts in college and whatnot. So it'd be good for them to be involved at their own hometown level prior to.
I agree with that, and I'll leave it up to you to deal with that.
I would
Yes.
love to deal with that.
Because I think that's the best way to get to all of them.
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
that
So
would be awesome.
I definitely volunteer my services to volunteer a student's services.
When Communities That Care had a series of committees a number of years ago, we had one that dealt with political issues in terms of the needs of kids in drugs and alcohol and
Sure.
various other things. And we had one really dynamic guy on that committee who sort of whipped us all into shape. He knew
Okay.
exactly what he wanted.
Who was that?
I'll come up with his
Oh,
name
okay.
someday, but it was great. It was like 5 years ago.
And then the other thing I'd just like to mention is that we have in the village, we also have a new downtown events
Yes,
committee. So
and we
I
will
would
be
think that they would work-
coordinating with them.
Yeah,
Yes.
and being on that committee, I know that the people involved in that committee are all very gung-ho about being involved. So,
Yes, you guys are.
Yeah.
Very
It's
much so.
A lot of emails.
Yes.
Just to put that out there.
Okay.
To keep them in the loop
Good.
as well.
Are you doing that committee?
Bradley, you made reference
Just
to,
on the email chain.
Oh, can you?
what you're starting to
open
talk about is the, sort of what the steering committee is going to be deciding
Yeah,
about what's the
exactly, sure.
makeup, the size, the type of people that you'd like to see involved. As somebody who's now expressing interest in perhaps being part of that steering committee, I'll just suggest when you are preparing for the meeting, perhaps look through the village code at some of the existing committees and councils and commissions. And I know that, for example, our Environmental Advisory Council has an allowance for up to 2 members to be between the ages of 16 and 21.
Sure.
So you might want to, borrow the best ideas of the other committees and commissions as you're, crafting your own vision.
Sure.
Good.
Okay. I don't know if I was volunteering to be on the commission, but I guess I know.
I think you did, actually. I think you
Yeah,
did.
you did. Yeah, congratulations.
What I'd like to do is get as many letters of interest as possible in the next 2 weeks and set up a session to go over these things and appoint people thereafter and move on.
Excellent.
Okay? Anyone else?
Thank you.
John? I know you would,
You know,
yes.
I was gonna volunteer. I was gonna volunteer Omar to do the thing for the chamber, but he walked in, so now I have to ask him directly. I was gonna just volunteer him while he was out of the room.
Omar is in the house. Anyway, I just remind Bob and everybody else. We had Danny's Cafe. We had the Austin Arts Council was hype. I mean, we had so many things going on, but it imploded because I think we had too many things going on. So I think you really have to get a grip on it, because if you get over what you can't do, then you're going to do everything halfway. And to do everything halfway, then everybody say, well, they're almost there, but they're not quite there. So you really have to get a grip on that. And I'm just reiterating what you're already saying, but you already, I think you realize, but it's really important that you get all these ideas written down, you get your lists of different columns, and then you have to implement them in a fashion that's going to make them work really well, not part well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
Well,
I'm throwing out what you already know, but I'm
The
just throwing it out
Downtown
there.
Events Committee is doing that. They're
Yeah.
doing one event.
But
I don't know
you
when
could
the next
try
one
to do too many things, and everything gets halfway done.
Right,
We get that.
okay.
You do get that?
I do.
Yes.
Bob, you get that?
I get that.
Got it.
Huh.
I get that.
That's interesting.
And we're gonna ask you to help with that.
Oh, God. Not
Yeah.
that.
Again, no
Okay.
surprise.
Anyway, I appreciate you all even going forward with this at all. This is a cool thing.
Yeah.
It'll be good for the town. Anything good for the town, it's good for us all.
Yeah, agreed.
Mark Sarazin, president of the
You don't have to do that,
Austin
Mark. You can
Arts.
stand up and say.
Wow. I had
This is
written
an
stuff,
artsy
but
crowd.
I say bravo. I applaud this decision. I think it's great. It's going to be wonderful for the community as well as the artist and all the artists. I could say sculptors, painters, watercolorists. woodworkers, carpenters, anybody that's, and since I've been here for 9 years, I've met a lot of them, so thank you.
Good.
Looking forward to it.
Yep.
And I'd like to put my 2 cents into talking to the board and thanking everybody for their interest in bringing the arts into Ossining. I'd like everybody to also to be aware that there already is an infrastructure in place. Many of the art groups, the OAC and the WCT, have been working together for years and joint projects. And we also have an interest in building from within. It's been our goal from the beginning. So we have been doing outreach to senior centers, to the Ossining School District, to the prison, working with community groups. As we grow, they continue to grow. And we've got, between the 2 organizations represented here tonight, well over 200 members, active members, most of whom live in the village of Ossining. And to us, the arts is not a back burner issue. It's something in our DNA. It's something we care deeply about, and it's something that we want to help partner with the village in bringing revitalization back to downtown and making it as vital an environment for art as it is for commerce and residency. And we think this commission, we have high hopes that it'll be done and will be very significant in bringing that to reality.
Good.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Aisling Dona. I just wanted to put in my 2 cents in terms of the kind of space that I think the arts, that would benefit the performing arts and maybe also the other types of creative arts, painters and such. I mean, it's exciting to think about using the parking space, but there's nothing there yet, and it doesn't get me excited. So I think in terms of the kind of space that we could use, as artists, we're used to making something out of nothing. So I think that we need to look at what we have around, and we can find something that we can fix up. Obviously, money is always needed, and I think if we all fall in love with a place, we can try and make that happen. I think we're all willing to make that happen. So we don't need perfection. You know, theater is done in many different types of places in Manhattan. So we can do the same here.
That is why we walked around the village last week, was it?
Okay.
And I have contacted a couple more people for us to take a look at.
Okay. That makes me happy.
Okay. This is, you know, it may be 5 years before something gets built downtown. If we go through all the processes, it may be less time than that. Yes, it's important to do it right now, but it's important to also think about the future, because right now is gone the next day. So, okay. Next.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is an update, discussion on municipal green initiatives. Village Planner Valerie Monastra.
Good evening. All right, so I wanted to update this board on a few different items. First of all, last week there was a New York Solar Westchester conference. Richard went to the morning session, and I went to the afternoon session. There was a lot of good information that was disseminated from that conference. One of the first things that Richard and I both spoke about this afternoon was dealing with the solar communities. I would like to just step back for a second. The Village of Ossining does issue solar permits quite often. Our solar permits do not require planning board approval or zoning board approvals or special permits, which many of the other communities do. They can just go ahead and submit for a building permit. So because of that, we are already a couple steps ahead of the game compared to a number of other communities. So we think we do actually probably would be considered, or at least highly considered, for being one of the solar communities. So one of the suggestions would be to submit an application for that. So, for example, at the conference they talked about how, and they were highlighting White Plains, which did 24 permits last year, Somers 8, and I'm saying this is their 2013 and 2014 numbers. Croton-on-Hudson did 7, and the Village of Ossining did 32 from 2013 to 2014, and that's just those 2 years. So for sure, there's a lot of solar permits that are coming through, and so we'd like to continue building on that. For the first thing is we'd like to submit the application to become a solar community. Secondly, as part of the conversations that took place at the Oh, I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to elaborate on the solar communities is an initiative through this Solarize Westchester. Their goal is to increase the number of solar units and solar residences in Westchester County. There are currently approximately 800 that are installed in Westchester. Their goal is to add another 400. They are going to actually, through these applications that would be submitted, they're going to select 8 communities that they're going to have a major push and a PR and an aggressive campaign to encourage solar installations, to get people involved. It's going to be an 18-week campaign in each of these selected communities. There will be 8 in total, and their total goal is to achieve 400 additional installations. So I think one of the most important things that they stressed, and we have a lot of talent and a lot of interest in this community. Obviously, Valerie just recited that by the fact that we have 32 installations in the last 2 years. But one of the biggest things that they stressed is they want to see a good percentage of local interest in the community, and you need a really good, solid team of volunteers, which could cut across any interest level to go out, educate people, let them know what the possibilities are, and to encourage them to investigate and ultimately do the installation. They're looking for a municipal sustainability committee. The village is already engaged by its participation in what was NWEAC, now Sustainable Westchester. So we meet that threshold, and clearly I think when they look at the village of Ossining, they see an interest here. So if we can, maximize on that, we would have to have an engaged community that would have this as an interest. Interestingly enough, the reason why they're bringing this forward at this time, they recited the fact that there's been a 30% reduction in capital costs associated with, solar installations, whereas it used to be really expensive. It's not cheap, but it's 30% less than it was previously. Also, they cited an interesting fact that, in fact, because of the exposure to the sun or the, whether it's a western or eastern exposure, there's actually a maximum of 20% of homes in any given community that would actually be a candidate for solar. So, but clearly it's possible if there's an additional 400 that they're looking to do, and eight communities, it would be approximately a possibility of 50. So the village of Ossining, with all this exciting things going on here, we thought would be a natural candidate. We wanted to bring it back to the board for you all to know about, and then hopefully we can proceed. Okay, thanks, Valerie.
Yeah.
One of the presentations that day was to involve the schools, each of the school systems. So while that presentation was going on, I texted the superintendent of schools, who told me a couple of days ago that they have already started the process on this. They're already talking about it. Don't know where that's going or in what time period, but they are interested. School buildings are among the largest buildings with large areas that are not shaded. Some of our buildings here have chimneys and elevator shafts and other things which break up the roof, making it very difficult to put in significant numbers of panels, but school buildings often do not have that sort of problem.
Do you need something from us tonight regarding
Well,
the
she's not
application?
finished with her
Well,
report.
there's a number of things I'm going to go. So for that one, yes, I would like your permission, right, to move forward with the application.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. The application, I think we would have a very strong application, and also the communities that are selected, I'm not sure if it's clear to everybody, Mayor Hanauer and Richard and myself were in the morning portion of that, where they explained more of the benefits that these particular communities would get if they were chosen through the application process, and that includes support to help our community become particularly accessible for having more people have access to solar at a fixed rate that everybody would in the community be able to take advantage of, and the more people that took advantage of it, the rate may actually go down, even for the first early adapters. And it would also include some support for our municipal services if there are opportunities for us to update or streamline or change our application process and our inspection process, so that and the whole goal of the Solarize program is to reduce what are considered the soft costs, which is the one element of solar that's going up. And that comes about because there are 45 municipalities in Westchester, and each of us have our own application process and our own inspection process. And the goal of this program is to have more of a unified approach so that when solar installers are looking to move to work in one community, they know what the process is going to be, and they can save money on that. The Solarize Westchester opportunity also helps the solar installers to save on doing the marketing and outreach to find customers, because this Solarize Westchester program, that is part of the process. So if we're able to take advantage of it, folks in our community would have greater access to programs that are very turnkey, where a lot of the legwork and figuring out who would be a great installer for you to work with and how would that rate, that fixed rate, be anticipated, that would be done for you, the communities that are chosen to participate in this. So it could be a really great advantage to the homeowners here.
Valerie?
So the other thing, and if that's what Victoria just mentioned, sort of segues into the other aspect of the solar, is that there is some, in the afternoon session, they started talking about how there are some model laws that are going to be coming through the pipeline that some of the upstate communities are working on, and that they're going to ultimately make available to all the municipalities statewide. And as I said before, as of right now, we feel that we have a very, very streamlined permitting process for solar panels. But there are certain, clearly those are roof panels, when you start dealing with, for example, there was one community that said they had to deal with a 6-acre array. Now, clearly that's going to be more than we will ever handle here, but what do you start dealing with when there are arrays? And there's issues with what happens if your neighbor's tree grows up and starts blocking your solar panel, the sunlight. What do you do in historic districts? So there are some nuances that are probably going to start coming out. And so what I'd like to do is, as these model laws get created, take a look at how that forms with our current zoning, and then try to do some tweaks so that it's a more clear path for people that are interested in doing solar. And then on top of that, while we're taking a look at that, there's a lot of, we all know about the wind turbines, the large scale ones, but there's smaller wind turbines that people are starting to develop with quite efficiency, putting on the rooftops. And they're small little boxes, but they also are going to be in replacement or in conjunction with solar panels. So we'd like to try to make sure that the mechanicals that we're dealing with, it's not just focused only on solar panels, but also allow some other energy efficiency mechanicals to be placed on roofs and on sides of buildings, much like your air conditionings, your chimneys, that type of thing. So that's the next step in this process, also to take a look at our current laws and how we can tweak them.
I think we have to look also at the large open parking lots. One of the things they pointed out was that there is a way to do solar panel sheds. But
Right.
I'm sure we don't have anything in our laws that, in our zoning codes that have that. We have 2 supermarket areas here in the village, plus we have the parking lots down by the train station.
Right.
So we should consider that using those spaces, but we should also consider how to zone those.
Right, and I think that,
regulate that.
really one of the things that Al and I have always looked at the I'm talking about Al Sirocco, the building inspector. We always look at these as more of like mechanicals, no different than when you have your air conditioners or your heaters or your oil tanks. But other communities don't look at it that way. So I think we want to try to keep language as as flexible as possible, but then yet don't create a situation where there is a time where maybe we really want to take a look at a particular situation that might arise, and then therefore we want to take and that also includes anything where you're dealing with your large scale generators, that type of thing too as well. So I think it just I guess a look at how our technology, or especially dealing with utilities, or how we deal with that in our zoning code, and then dealing with on the building permit process.
And leaving it loose enough because technology changes
Right, technology is
overnight,
constantly
so-
changing. Well,
yeah.
that was one of the things they talked about. They're like, it's constantly changing, and that's part of what we need to
Yeah.
recognize as well.
Good.
First responders. I know the fire department has expressed some concerns about best practices in dealing with fires with roofs that have solar panels on them and whatnot.
Right, and
Did they address that?
Well, ironically, they're actually doing trainings on that very same thing, and I just sent information over to the chief today, actually, on a training that's going to be held next week in Portchester on that. But they're actually going to be developing trainings for firefighters to learn how to dismantle the systems when they deal with those types of...
Could you CC me that?
Sure.
Thanks.
I mean, and now, I mean, this is sort of last minute, they just, the conference was last week. I looked up the training schedules, found that this week, but I'm sure they're going to have more of them. But yes, I'll send that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
All right, so now, all right, so that's the solar. So now I'm going to go on to some additional energy efficiency community outreach. So clearly, as part of, as everyone's been talking about with the dealing with the solar, if we become a solar community, we'll be dealing with outreach amongst the community. And while I was at the conference, I was approached by a woman who works for Con Edison, and she heads up the multifamily energy efficiency program. And Con Edison actually offers a lot of rebates for multifamily homes of 5 units to 75 units for energy efficiency, so where they include energy efficient, for example, hot water heaters, they could be heating controls, new installation. They actually give rebates back on those particular buildings. So what she would like to do is come to the Village of Ossining and try to do a community session where to pull in additional multifamily property owners and to alert them of that program. But there's also current funding programs under NYSERDA dealing with solar grants and wind turbine grants, and they're aimed towards residential homes and smaller commercial businesses as well, and you don't have to be a NYSERDA customer. So I think it probably would behoove maybe the village to look at probably trying to do some sort of community event where all these different money sources or funding sources might be able to be tapped into and presented to the community at large. I know, there's the Ossining Green Committee, there's the Ossining Environmental Advisory Council that would probably be interested in maybe doing some of the community outreach and helping to put together a program such as that. But I think, and then clearly there's been Energize Ossining. So, so we don't want to necessarily duplicate things, but there's a lot of different programs out there that I'm not so sure the average residential homeowner even knows that these programs exist, and especially with some of your multifamily homes, we know how expensive it is to do any sort of upgrades, and so this might help benefit and create some additional energy efficiencies in the village.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So
when are we doing this, Madeline?
So with that, I know Victoria's the liaison to the Environmental Advisory Council. So I mentioned to the Environmental Advisory Council that I was going to be meeting tonight here, and so we were going to meet at the October meeting. We can talk from there, and then maybe bring in some people from Green Ossining, who it's a consortium of both the town and village, and so try to pull something together. And meanwhile, I can reach out to Con Edison to see what type of program that they usually run, how long it is, and then see what we can do from there.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Thank you.
Next item on
Then
your
the third
agenda?
thing, one more, sorry. There's one more thing on energy efficiency. So I also got a phone call from John Cronin from Pace University. If you recall, the village went through or started on some microgrid process with Pace. That process sort of stalled a little bit, not necessarily with the students, but because of the fact that the governor has not announced what type of programs they're actually going to do with microgrids at this point. And in the meantime, Pace University has a new, their climate team actually has a new director now. And so they want, the phone call came that they want to continue working with the Village of Ossining, and they want to bring us into other aspects of energy efficiency. And so they want the village to meet with their climate resiliency team in the next, we're going to set up a meeting sometime in the next month and talk about other opportunities of how the village can work with PACE, or actually how PACE can use the village for various projects that they're working on. And So basically, I'm here to just get your permission to continue the conversation with PACE and then continue our involvement with them, their students, and their various programs that, you know, they were very excited. They told the director they wanted to meet with us and that the village is, you know, ready to go and willing to participate in whatever
Good.
programs they come up with.
Good. They approached us for this program, as I recall.
Yes, they did, and clearly they've come back for, and,
Yeah.
and they said, you know, this time we're starting in September, so this time we'll have a full year to work on projects and continue the partnership.
So you're asking if we're in support of students studying how
Right.
we can save
You know,
money and
and
cost us
truthfully,
nothing?
I
that's-
contacted, you know, I just wanted, you know, I will provide you more information once I know the you know, I did try to contact John today to get a little bit more information on what types of programs he wants, you know, the village to be involved in, but at this point, I don't have much more except that they want to set up a meeting with the new director of the village and John to start talking about this coming year.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
You got us.
All right, that is.
If it's free.
As far as I know. Right.
Thanks, Richard.
Valerie, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great. The next item on the agenda is a discussion of a payment of an overdue tax. The village has concluded one of its in-rem tax foreclosure actions, and this is one of the last parcels that remains to be redeemed. So,
You've seen these in the past. It gets to the point where a tax lien's been foreclosed, and the treasurer, the Director of Finance and Treasurer, is no longer authorized statutorily or otherwise to accept a payment, a late payment, because technically the village owns the lien. So in the past, I've come forward and to you once with the major assistance of the Deputy Treasurer who hounds people till they relent. But once they've come forward and they've proven to me that they have the wherewithal and the means and are prepared immediately to bring the matter current, and if part of that is a foreclosed tax lien, it needs to be authorized by the board to accept that such a late payment. So that's what this is. I'd like to put it on for next week. They are ready, willing, and able. They have been paying them in reverse order as the statute requires, and they're up to the point now where the last bit includes one of these foreclosed liens. So I'd like to get it on for next week and get the check and cash the check and take this off the books.
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
We've done it before. We should do it again.
Yes.
Sounds fine to me.
Okay, thank you.
Isn't that a song?
okay, thank you. The next item is a discussion with the village treasurer, Thomas Warren. The treasurer's office has been reviewing the current water billing programs and has an opportunity to suggest a new program, updated software, additional information capabilities that will service both the residents and make the processing of water billing more straightforward. So Tom, if you could come forward, and thank you.
Thank you, Richard, and good evening, Mayor and members of the Board of Trustees.
Good evening, Tom.
We had discussed this at a department head meeting back in August, and there was a lot of positive thoughts about it. This also helps to address one of the issues that we discussed with the board about a year ago with regards to being more customer-friendly and providing software that would allow customers to actually log in through a portal to check their water sewer accounts, look at consumption, look at payments, make payments, things like that. And more importantly for us in the finance department, it helps us get rid of some 1990s software which you know, it's kind of like DOS where you have to tab around the screen and use function keys to pull down menus, and then you just go through screen by screen, you know, looking for, you know, the customer that you're looking for. So this is actually, you know, we decided to bypass the software that KVS developed that was more Windows environment, and they've actually partnered with another company, Springbrook, which is actually much better software. We've actually been able to look at the two softwares and talk to other people in local governments about, you know, which software that they prefer. and the Springbrook really is the preferred customer. And that also allows for the web portal that would allow customers to log in. Also, the Springbrook software is also Microsoft Gold Certified Development Partner, which allows ease of exporting information from the accounting system directly to Word and Excel for applications. And also, it provides, and actually in my memo I talked about providing this 12-month history bar graph on the water bills. There's actually 24-month, so that customers would actually, be very similar to your Con Ed bill, where you're able to see, like on a bar graph, what your consumption is. And that's something that we currently cannot do, and KBS is not making any additional enhancements to the current software. So, they really have been sending us a signal that, it's really time for the village to change over to one of the two newer softwares that they are supporting and developing enhancements for. And also, the web portal would also allow customers to sign up for receiving e-bills instead of waiting for the paper bill. It also allow sending emails to them, and it also allow them to make payments directly through the web portal. And this also kind of ties in with the proposal that we've been looking at to accept credit card payments in the office, where people would be able to still use the official payments software contract that we're working on in order to make payments, and they can also make the e-payments. And at the time that we were looking at the official payments proposal, they actually had a web portal themselves, but that was always going to be static history, where every day or every couple of days we'd have to upload financial data for the customer accounts for people to see, whereas the Springbrook program is real time, where the information is always current, and so it saves us on having to actually export the data over to what official payments would do. So that would save us on that contract as well. And
is this current year's budget going to be used for this, or next year's proposed budget?
That's the thing right now, because this is almost exclusively water sewer fund. We feel that it can be absorbed in the 2014 water sewer fund budget. We certainly didn't anticipate this when we developed the budget. I did have some money within the finance department, line items within the water sewer fund, but I was asking for use of money from the contingency accounts with the budget modification to allow us to start this right away. We actually have to sign up for the program in order to get on the schedule for this to be to happen. And also, right now, it's viewed as an enhancement, not new software, so there's some savings there. But it seems to be the time now to sign up for it, and then we'll be able to do the conversion in the fall and into 2015, and we'll hopefully be online with this before the audit starts. So, it seems to be a good time for us to try to get this conversion done. And also, our IT manager, Craig Cooper, has also looked at this, and our current computer system can accommodate the new software. It can be included in the backup. So that was important to us. And I think that's all that I had on this proposal. So really there's a question of whether or not the board was interested in allowing us to proceed with this now, and then there would be a budget modification to provide the appropriations for this proposal.
This is exactly what we're talking about in terms of filling out the forms needed for development, or for this is just another element of that. It's great.
Yeah, do it.
Yep.
And this to me seems like an excellent use of the contingency funds for both water and sewer, and it will be a real benefit to customers to have an easier way to see their payment history and to make payments online and to get e-bills. And so I think it sounds like a great idea. Thanks, Tom.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, sorry.
Yes.
So this pretty much, if we go back, just like to recap some of the stuff, in the beginning of the year, we were talking about new technology, how do we advance, what do we do? I think this is a great step going forward. I kind of do have a quick question. This program, what capability of more advanced does it have? Does it have more tools to be added later on, or is it going to be strictly for water and sewage dealing? Can we add something else to it? If
Is it
it maybe
open
Like, for instance, maybe a garbage charge, you know, if you wanted to change how you raise monies for garbage pickup, is that the type of thing that you're talking about?
Yes and no, I guess. A little more open to, you know, what else. I know we don't pay taxes through your office, but we have a different pays through the town. But you know, something similar to that effect, that it could be used for something else, or that software is just strictly for that type of format itself, I guess.
It's for, it's for utility billings, and I would say you could use it for any type of operations that would include billing for services rendered. You know, I suppose you could even use it in like the building department itself, if there was a need for like charging for services.
So if I wanted to, that's in a way that's the way I was going. Like, you know, the municipalities have online building application forms, but they have to go in person and pay and check, so to speak. So if that was the case, within the next 5 years, 10 years from now, we still have this program. At that time, will this type of program or this software will be able to, or capable of doing such as things like that online instead of going in person, so to speak?
We'd actually looked at this with our credit card program, and we talked with the vendor about different options for, you know, paying taxes. Like for taxes, you know, you'd put up on the wall the different tax bills, and customers would log on and they'd find their tax bill and pay it. The same thing would happen with water sewer, although that's a, you know, ongoing updating all throughout the year. So this is good for that application. But at the time, I did ask for the ability to like have a blank line where somebody could log in and say, I want to pay $100
for
the building department for a building permit. You know, and that's the type of thing where you know, you can't really like list everything up there. You really want it easy to use, where somebody could actually go on and actually say, you know what, I need to make a payment today for the building department so I can get this permit, and they can go on and they can put in their name and address and the dollar amount, and we would see that payment
so
come
that
in automatically.
it has that capability
That's
of,
great.
of
Well,
doing some such thing like that.
That was the credit card payment to allow people to log in to make payments.
Okay.
The Springbrook would allow
Okay.
us to, you know, also do billing, like, you know,
All
a building department application where they wanted to send out bills for, you know, a certain
Whatever.
type of service.
So they could bill me, and then I could log back on and pay the bill.
Actually,
Ideally.
if we do bill you, then that payment actually will be up on the wall, and people
you
would
can pay
actually
it.
be able to go in and pay it. Yes,
I love
absolutely.
that. What about the rec department? If we could hook that in too, there's a zillion different things that people pay for at the rec department. And if that was able to be done exactly the same way, that would be absolutely awesome.
The rec department does have online
They
payments.
do have that.
See? And oh, I didn't know that. I never buy anything there.
Well,
I
you should
don't.
start. Now
Huh?
that's easy.
Yes. Well, I'm in that fitness protection program, so there's no working out for me. You know.
They've been taking credit card payments for years.
Yes.
Down
So
at the Recreation
Tom,
Department.
what is after you do the budget modification, how long does it take to get this thing doing? And I was looking at the numbers, I guess the training part and all of the stuff. So we're gonna be ready to go by next year, pretty much.
We're
we'll
ready
be
to
rolling.
go Once they put us on the
100%?
schedule, and you have
Okay.
to sign up to get on the schedule. So,
Right.
you know, we would tell them that we're ready to go immediately, and we would just wait for them to tell us that they're ready for us to start implementing. And we can always start sending them the data so that they can, you know, look at the data and see what needs to be converted and things like that.
And we were holding off on the official payments, the ACI official payments contract, until we understood how this would dovetail. And if we're going to proceed on the current one that you're reviewing now, then we could move both of them forward on a parallel track, and they could be ready to go. Because the other contract, the ACI official payments contract, had a portal which was separate. But when we saw that this had its own portal and this, it would dovetail, we wouldn't have to add that
Add to
module
them.
to the ACI, and it saved some money on that as well.
That saved us some money.
It saved a lot of activity, as Tom was explaining. The ACI official payments required a staff member to be uploading data on a much more regular basis. This way, the two programs will work together
I love
without that extra effort.
Cool.
So, Tom, I have two more questions. One, I guess the conversation you said, it was internal with managers, so Andy is aware of this. Is he okay with all this?
I would say that he's, you know, as excited as I am about about the ability to provide more customer-oriented, user-friendly, more informative water bills.
Okay. So my second question is, we get a bill every 3 months. Will this change? Will it be every month, or it will still be every 3 months? Do we have
I
the
would-
capability of breaking it into every month or whatever maybe?
You can change it from quarterly to monthly. It's just going to mean going out and reading the water meters
Never mind.
every month.
Thank you.
instead of
Never
quarterly.
mind. Never mind.
Yes, though.
Thank you.
Just increase the water department staff, right?
Yes. Along with the planning department and the building department.
All right, so we're good to go on that, yes?
Yes. Now we
Sounds
have
great.
Okay.
Tax
All right,
certiorari.
thank you. So we have, the village annually has tax certiorari claims, which are residents and businesses challenging their tax assessment over the course of several years, especially after the economic problems of 2007 and 8. The village saw its certiorari reductions soar. They've actually come down in the last few years. However, we seem to pay less one year and then a little more another year, so we have a few more claims to pay this year. The good news is that the assessor's office has settled many claims that go back many years, so we're actually settling them, and it actually results in a fairer roll, and you're settling out payments that go back 5, 6, 7 years. So we're now in a position where we can project ahead to what has to be paid during the balance of 2014, and Tom is here to speak to that projection and also to any required resolutions in connection with that. So, Tom?
Yes, you know, actually, so far this year, there'd only been about 3 or 4 tax certiorari claims. And when we did our 6-month fiscal review, it'd only been $91,000, and, you know, we were very optimistic that it was going to be a very low number this year. But now that we've actually sat down with the assessor's office and looked at what they've already approved, what is on the schedule to be approved by the State Supreme Court Justice. You know, now we're looking at a total of about $338,000 for the year. We had thought it would be $250,000 when we adopted the budget, although that was hoping that some of these would go away. So, you know, the number really, you know, in going back and looking at what we were looking at last fall, you know, it's still a valid number from back then. We just thought that, you know, more cases would be settled in the village's favor. Asking for a budget modification to increase the $250,000 to $340,000, and I've also contacted our bond counsel to ask them to write a bond resolution for the tax certiorari claims for the entire $340,000.
Okay.
Yep.
We don't have a choice, do we?
This is, however, half of what we have been bonding in previous.
Yes, I included a schedule. Richard asked me if I would research what we've paid. He actually only asked for 5 years, but when the economy turned bad in 2008, we'd actually issued an $800,000 bond, which actually lasted for 3 years. So I went back that far, and also went back to 2007, which was like the last year that we're actually able to, just have small amounts in the budget. But, I did want to remind you about the good news. Back in 2013, we didn't issue any bonds. In 2013, we actually absorbed the $120,000 in the operating budget in itself.
So what's next?
Thank you.
Okay, very great. Thank you. Turn it back to the mayor for board trustee liaison reports.
Bob?
Well, OVAC is doing swimmingly, as always. Every time I ask them what they need, they say we're doing just fine. What they need is members. So if you want to serve your community as a volunteer for Ossining Volunteer Ambulance Corps, call Captain Nick Franzoso at 914-487-3091, or go to www.ossiningvac.org. They're over at 8 Clinton Avenue by the new drugstore there, and there are positions available for volunteers. There are also some paid EMT positions available. So if you want to get out and make a difference, they're a really great organization to get involved in. With the Ossining Chamber of Commerce, Gail Marchica is very, very busy. If you go on their website at www.ossiningchamber.org, there's a series of workshops that are being held in different places around the county that on a regular basis. They just had one about finance for your small business. They have another one coming up on how to do online marketing. So go and look and help get your small business going. If you want to join the chamber, give them a call, 914-941-0009. And they're over at 2 Church Street, Suite 205, which is just across from the church there. And they're staffed all the time. They say, come by and have a cup of coffee. That's it for me.
Good.
No reports.
Victoria?
Yeah, I'll review a little more about both the Environmental Advisory Council, which met last week, as well as some of what we learned at the Solarize program last week. Valerie touched on a lot of what was discussed during the Solarize program, but one topic that didn't come up is the municipal solar buying program, which is becoming much more accessible to municipalities as the price of the a few things happened at the same time. One of them is the price of the solar carports that might be able to be installed in large municipal parking lots. The price of that has come down, and at the same time, the New York State there's now been a favorable ruling so that any energy that is absorbed in a parking lot, it's something called remote net metering, meaning we absorb energy from the carport, but all of that ticking down of energy that's being absorbed on that meter in the parking lot can actually then reduce the energy costs in, for example, this building or in one of the other municipal buildings. We may not be able to have enough of a solar array here to pay for the energy costs in this building, but instead, if we find opportunities to take advantage of the solar buying program in a parking lot, then we could pay much of our electricity bill in that way. Until recently, that was not, this program was not available to municipalities like the Village of Ossining because we are customers of NYPA, which is the New York Power Authority, which provides us with great prices on electricity. However, it doesn't allow us to have access to some of the funding through the state, through NYSERDA, because we don't pay a systems benefits charge toward that. And so one of the things that what was NWEAC and is now Sustainable Westchester did was work to push forward through New York State access for communities like ours to be able to take advantage of these municipal solar buying program. And we're we're marching down this path, and that path may still work, but meanwhile, New York State found another parallel path that's got some opportunities for us that is definitely in place, which means there's some money set aside for communities like ours to be able to have those rebates that make it a financial opportunity for us. And eventually, we might have both paths accessible to us. So that's just really a great example of how what was NWIAC and is now Sustainable Westchester is working on behalf of the municipalities that we serve. And Ossining has always been a very active member in that, and I'm thrilled that this is another opportunity that might come to our community as a result of being part of that consortium. And the EAC met last week to review a particular project, but they also, for the first time in a while, considered a couple of ways that they could, as a council, consider weighing in, for one thing, on the Algonquin pipeline that's been proposed, which the village board has taken a stand on with the help of Corporation Council. We took a legal stance, but there's an opportunity for anyone in the community to provide comments to FERC, which is the Federal Regulatory Agency. And it was brought to the Environmental Advisory Council's attention that they had the opportunity as a council, if they would like to provide comments to be reviewed. And sometimes having the comments presented not only as an individual, but as an environmental advisory council can carry more weight. And so it was the first time that the EAC, at least in my few years being a part of it, had considered taking on that kind of a role. And so it led to an interesting conversation about what is their role, as well as what is an appropriate way for them as a body to present their concerns about this pipeline, which the village board has already taken a stand on.
Could you talk about that? Because some people at home don't understand this pipeline project. Could you just give a quick overview?
It's a natural gas pipeline that's being proposed to come in underneath the Hudson River and also underneath the nuclear power plant at Indian Point. There are some pipelines that exist right now. The one that's being proposed to be put in would be larger, significantly larger than any that are there. And its purpose is not to provide energy to anybody here, but to be able to export natural gas to other countries. The pipeline would go through our neighboring communities and then out through Massachusetts, and natural gas could be shipped to other countries as an export, which would be very profitable for some of our companies, so the oil companies, and could actually have international ramifications, because energy is obviously something that is a major topic of concern for international relations, so it is a complicated thing. But one of the other questions that more broadly comes up that the EAC brought their focus to exactly what is their mission, which is really to protect the environmental concerns of our community, particularly as a riverfront community. The activist groups who are really objecting to this pipeline are also very much looking at the potential that having this pipeline would put a lot of pressure on Albany and New York State to permit fracking to move forward, because it becomes, as you increase the demand for natural gas, then it becomes harder and harder for some politicians to be able to take a stand against fracking. And so it's a complicated issue, but the EAC really tried to focus what their mission would be in their statements based on what their role is in the village. So it was an interesting conversation. And they also reviewed the PACE plan and the streamlining suggestions and recommendations and how that impacts their role in reviewing potential development projects in the village. So it was a very good conversation. We have 2 new members of the group, and they are seeking 3 more members, particularly going to reach out to the high school and see if we can get a couple of those students who can provide a fresh perspective and maybe do some different kinds of research for the group. So it was a good meeting.
I have a couple of things. WMOA has been quiet all summer, and the first membership meeting of the year, which starts in September for that organization, is next week, so stay tuned. Historic Hudson River Towns, a lot is going on, and a lot of it has to do with the Sing Sing Historic Prison Museum. as you already know, we are now a priority project for the Hudson Valley Economic Development Council of the state, which means the likelihood is we will be getting grants. We have also submitted grant proposals now for humanities, endowment for the National Endowment for the Humanities, and the two senators and the congresswoman are helping us with putting pressure on the endowment for that. There will be 2 fundraisers for the museum this fall, and we're again increasing the capacity of our website, which the village has the ability to post all of our programs, all of our events and activities on the HHRT website. So we're increasing that capacity. We are changing the design of the website. It gets over 200,000 hits a year. It's the highest number of hits of any. If you go into if you're looking for Hudson River, you will come up with HHRT's website right at the top of Google. So we are increasing that, changing the design, and making it even more user-friendly. It is now user-friendly, but it will be even more so later. Austin Communities That Care has done an enormous amount this summer. They've collaborated with the Austin Open Door, the library, the schools, the police department, the rec department, the Elks Club, the Lions Club, and Austin High School Youth to Youth program. The Elks Club gave a $4,000 grant, $2,000 for AMD summer programs, and $2,000 for Lucky to Live in Ossining. It's a new program, a new PR program that CTC is doing. That's Communities That Care. Did I say that already? Which pushes the fact that we have a large number of our students are not on drugs. A large number of our students do not drink, and in comparison to other communities where they do and they are. So it is showing another benefit to living in Ossining for people who want to move here or want to move somewhere in Westchester County to educate their kids. So it's a good one. The Lions Club also gave $2,000 for a program for the Future Healthcare Leaders, which is being conducted at the Ossining Open Door. And 15 of our high school kids went to the National Youth to Youth Leadership Conference this summer, which I think is quite extraordinary. There was this year an expanded number of programs at the middle school. Last year and the year before, I took Sylvia Scala from Family Ties, and I took a group of kids from the middle school to the Natural History Museum. Didn't get to do that this year, but there were a lot of programs like that. And it's quite an extraordinary thing to kids who are home here in Ossining for the summer, who can learn and enjoy themselves in new settings each time. So CTC's been a wonderful advantage for this community. Not every community has an organization like that. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. I just wanted to take this opportunity to give a heads up for a couple of events that are coming up in the village. On Saturday, September 20th at Wishney Park on Pleasantville Road. They're going to sponsor a health fair, and they should have a number of booths and events and some health-related activities. For additional information on that event, you can look on the website or call the village manager's office at 941-3554, and we can give you some additional timing and things on that event. That will be at Wishney Park on Saturday, September 20th. On October 19th, the first event of the new Downtown Events Committee will be held, which will actually be called Chalk It Up, and it's going to allow kids and adults and all manner of participants to express themselves on the sidewalks of the downtown Main Street. So that would be Sunday, October 19th. And again, for additional information, you can read about it on the website, or you can call the village manager's office, 941-3554, and you can ask for Ingrid Richards, who's the liaison to that group. I said the first event, but actually this last weekend there was the first event sort of co-sponsored, which would be during the month of September. The committee is sponsoring yoga at Market Square, so if you want to participate in that, had a nice little turnout last weekend. It was actually a lot of fun, a beautiful day, right adjacent to the farmers market. So on noon Saturdays for the rest of the month of September, please come down and join this free yoga class and demonstration. I think you'll have a great time, so thank you. And at this time, we would like a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of obtaining legal advice.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This ends the public portion of this evening's agenda. We hope to see you tomorrow evening at the waterfront for the 9/11 ceremony and for the paper boats flotilla. And we will see you next Wednesday at 7:30 at the courthouse for a legislative session. Have a good week.